Welcome back to Straight Facts. It's Monday morning. Hit like buttons. Make sure you are subscribing. Don't worry about the face. I got a little bit sunburnt yesterday. I'm not angry. It's a red light. It's not making it. But this is terrible.
I don't think it's a little bit, Terry. You look very.
You're on.
You can see it just through the top of your shirt.
Yeah. Look. Do you know what? Do you know what? It's one of them days, right? I'm. How do I say this? I'm white. I don't know if anyone's ever noticed when they met me. I'm a white man, right?
No way.
And I'm white, and I have I'm English, but I've got Irish heritage, so I've got that real. And Irish people have two types of skin, and my children have got the split. Some Irish people, and you'll know this, Jamie, because you're Irish. Some have like what I call cement skin. They go in the sun, they go really brown real quick, and then there's the other half where it's like you go very red and flaky, and then go back to being pale again. Unfortunately, I got that version of the skin. My kids, they go nice and brown. It's great. But no, I made the mistake yesterday because it wasn't that warm or sunny when I went out. I didn't put any sunblock on. And then it got really sunny, but it didn't feel that hot. And I got home and now I look like a boiled lobster. So yeah, and the red lights ain't helping either, but there we go. We've got a lot to speak about this morning. We're talking Amorim out as the notion for that grows online. Mainoo reportedly leaving in the last week of the transfer window after 2 games with 0 minutes this season. Fans fuming that he's not getting game time. What is the solution there? We're talking Arsenal. We're talking Gyökeres as they arrive in this season with a fantastic win and more evidence that social media has a real role in the dressing room these days, because we definitely know that Gyökeres was listening to Lee Gunner because he literally did a celebration to mock him, which I do find very, very funny, to be fair, in the nicest possible way. We're talking Tottenham, a weird situation at Tottenham at the minute. Fans angry every day about what's going on in the window, but an amazing start to the season. So a real dichotomy of emotion there after they battered Manchester City. Yes, it was only 2-0, but they were comprehensively the better team. We're talking transfers as well, with Garnacho to Chelsea imminent, according to reports this morning. Plus, we're touching on Rodrigo, we're touching on Lemens, we're touching finally on the big game tonight as well, the Isak derby, the Craig Hope versus James Pearce derby tonight. Which media outlet is coming out on top? And I know we're all up for that one. But listen, people, like the show if you could. Make sure you are subscribing if you would be so bold. And I'll check Ornstein. There's a bomb.
Yeah.
Oh,
David in centre back.
Arsenal are working on the deal to bring in Pereiro. I can't pronounce it either. Hincapie is how it reads in English. The 23-year-old defender. But I know Spurs are in for him. Are you both going for him at the same time?
No. So the stuff with Fabrizio was rubbish. This what I don't know, man. He's being exposed as a bit of a fraud at the moment. Clearly, he hates Tottenham. I don't know. I think he hates my club, or he's realizing, you play with Spurs fans, they're gonna be all in. Like they're the best ones going game farm right now. So he's put out earlier, about an hour before this. He was like, "Yeah, Spurs are put in a bid." But then, Spurs journal Ali Gold come out minutes later and said, this is rubbish. Tottenham have no interest in Hincapie. And then this comes out, rather interestingly, like half hour later, Hincapie to Arsenal. So I don't know if this is agent talk. I don't know where Fabrizio is getting his news from, but Spurs are apparently in for him. But now we'll see.
Now you were in for him. That's the main word.
I think that this is like, we know our clubs are interested in a lot of players, and it's probably a player that we've had conversations with. But if you can see right now, Fabrizio says we've put in a bid. Now it comes out, Ornstein says Arsenal's put in a bid, but Ornstein didn't mention Tottenham. I feel like Ornstein does a good job, as if another club is involved, he'll mention, Tottenham have had talks and so on. He didn't mention nobody else. So I don't know I don't know who to listen to, but as of recently, I don't listen to Fabrizio for Tottenham. Let you know.
Do you know what I always find funny though, right? And we all do this as fans. When United were struggling to get Mbumo done, and then I think it was Alex Crook, I think the Mirror and a few other outlets said that Spurs had put bids in. when everybody thought you were going to hijack us, every Spurs fan in our group chats were like, "Oh, this is fun. We might do it." As soon as it came out about 3 days later, he only wants United. It was those bids weren't real. We all do that, don't we? Like we want to we pick like Fabrizio is the funniest one. We pick and choose when Fabrizio is legit or delegitimate. But to
be fair, Ben Jacobs has mentioned Spurs. He said Spurs are not the only Champions League club interested in him. And then obviously later it turns out to be Arsenal that are trying to get him. So it's not just Fabrizio, Ben Jacobs as well, George. I don't know where you sit with Ben, but he's also
Ben is cool. Look, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Spurs have had talks to him. Like this is normal.
Yeah.
Spurs probably spoke with the player. I've seen reliable. Spurs have had a long-standing interest in Hincapie. He's a very good player, very similar to Romero at the back. So like, I think if Arsenal get him, they've got way too many centre-backs. I don't see how he fits in because for me, he's a starting centre-back quality. Like you look at him and he should start at a top Premier League team. But if Arsenal get him, it's a good sign. I won't play it down. I just think it's interesting now how Spurs' name is being used in every single player. It's like, let's use Spurs as the rejected team because it makes stories more interesting. That's what I think it is. It makes story more interesting.
Welcome to it. But as a Man United fan, I don't think Liverpool have signed a player in the last 8 years where their local journalists haven't mentioned us in the report saying United also showed interest, or United is something. And sometimes when you look into it, like, we showed interest 18 months ago, none since. Like our name is used in those reports on a regular basis because it holds it. But I mean, I think Ornstein has said that he's prioritizing Arsenal over other clubs. He hasn't specified. Yeah, he says here that Hincapie prefers to join Arsenal and the Premier League side are ready to push for him despite departure materializing. It does say, I did read it. Yeah, it says he's prioritizing him over other Premier League clubs. But he hasn't mentioned Spurs, as you say, as of right now. But interesting. I mean, I'll be blunt with you. Who is he and where does he play?
Leverkusen. He's a
centre back.
Can play left back as well. He'll probably play left back for we probably play left back for Arsenal because you know Arteta likes to convert these centre backs into full backs. So he probably play left back for Arsenal. That probably means Lewis Skelly moving into midfield as well because you'll have Calafiori and how do you pronounce his name?
Hincapie.
You'll have him and Calafiori at left back.
But by the way, though, it's £51 million. I think the deal is going to be.
That's a lot.
How much have Arsenal spent now this year? Like, it'd be coming up to near 400 million.
If they get this, let's have a little butchers here. If they bring him in, it's currently actually, it's 293 million euros so far without add-ons. I don't add add-ons for anyone. I use transfermarket.co.uk, so that's 256. So it'll be just over 300 million. Just over 300 million. Damn. So about 301 million. But what's really funny is how a week ago, and I like this is what I say to people though, I don't listen to any of the journalists when it comes to the financial matters at clubs because he said that there's real PSR and FFP problems. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the trading accounts for Arsenal, the actual profit and loss, the revenue growth. I'm looking at it and I'm like, no, I don't see where the PSR issue is. It's almost basic maths. They're nowhere near it. Actually, the financial experts calculate there's about a 200 million surplus where they'd be okay on PSR. Oh, but FFP is different, only marginally. So I'm not surprised, but that's considering a week ago, Ornstein said there's no money left. And by the end of this week, they might go and spend another, including the money for Eze, that they go and spend over £100 million more before selling anybody, I will add. Is crazy. But Cal here says, Spurs, you lot know your place, you bums, is what Cal the gunner says here.
That's clearly, innit? This is what I expect here all week. Again, like I said, journalists are going to do what they do. I'll go off it. And do you know what? I was actually live. I was live when this news come out, when they said Fabrizio Bomber. You know how people always come in the chat, Bomber.
Yeah.
I looked and I said, don't worry, when it's Fabrizio, this is smoke screen. This is a smoke screen, man. This is a smoke grenade that's been thrown in there. No bombers. So, yeah, man. Look, I'll hold my smoke for the time being. You guys won the Eze deal, so it is what it is.
How
you feeling about that now? Because we didn't actually get to speak. I know you were live yourself. I did your reaction to your video, actually. It was amazing. But how are you feeling about that deal now that Arsenal got him?
You know, it's unfortunate. Again, as the stuff comes out more and more, you hear, I don't know if it's his brother or cousin. There was like a podcast that he was doing as basically suggesting that Tottenham was never really on the cards. He always wanted Arsenal. He made the calls to Arsenal. So what it shows to me is just negligence from my club, and it makes I think my club make us look bad. Our transfer team, whoever's handling the transfers, because yet again, we're going in for players that we're not sure want to come. Morgan Gibbs-White, yeah, he turned his head, but if he wanted to come to Spurs, he would have made that very clear. You should have known that from the jump. Same thing with Eze. Should have known whether he wanted to come to Spurs. Should have really, sort of gathered where his ambitions were. Was it to be a Spurs player? Was it to come and play for Tottenham? What were your ambitions to come with Tottenham? Because quite clearly he always wanted Arsenal. And then again, like it's just showing to me that we're consistently getting rejected due to going for players that we're not sure about. Nico Paz last night, my club is being ambitious in the sense that we're trying to get a 10. We're going out there and putting bids out there, but at the same time, we're not doing the credible checks to know more about these players and where they want to go. So yeah, like as much as I can get onto Eze and it hurts a bit. Like this still is probably worse than the Willian one in some sense, but yeah, it hurt because it was Arsenal, innit? That's what it was. It hurt because it was Arsenal, and it hurt because it was right down like we were already planning how Eze is going to be in the team, how he's going to suit the Frank system. I'm already thinking about some of the assists that he's going to get, running down the left wing in the number 7 shirt. These are the things I'm already planning. I've already got this, but
surely Willian's a worse one though, because he was on the medical table. He was on the medical table, and at least with Eze, he's an Arsenal fan. Listen. If you're more time when football is a fan of a club and that club comes in, they're saying yes. You know what I mean? They're saying yes. Eze's an Arsenal fan, and that was his dream. It's his dream to play for Arsenal. He's there for the academy. He's finally getting his chance. Willian was on the medical table, has no affiliation to Chelsea, and they're coming for him last minute. He's like, okay, cool. I'm gonna dip. That's got. I'm sorry. That's what I don't think Eze is.
For me with Willian. He's not a player that we watched for 4 or 5 years. He's a player that we just knew of, and he's Brazilian. He's supposed to be good. You didn't really know about him. Eze, we knew the quality that was Brazilian, Willian, whatever. You just knew that he had some flair, but you didn't really know. He played for Shakhtar Donetsk, couldn't it? So it was just like, oh, what's he gonna bring? Eze, you knew the quality he was gonna bring, and that deal almost looked like it was gonna be done, innit? So yeah, it hurts. It hurts a lot.
Yeah, I heard what his cousin said as well, and his cousin's probably telling an element of the truth, but I don't mean this in a horrible way. And I know Fabrizio gets a lot of shit at the minute, but journalists do have to be professional. So there's this element of he definitely agreed terms with Spurs. I believe that. What's a journalist? Imagine the journalist reported it like his cousin. And this is why, no disrespect to his cousin. I don't know who he is. He's probably a nice bloke. But yeah, Eze, don't let your cousin handle your press releases, because we all know PR is part of football. And imagine it came out. Imagine Fabrizio said he's agreed the personal terms, but he's not really keen, right? Imagine he actually said that. You can't say it. So it's not that Fabrizio was wrong. It's Fabrizio is saying what the agent has said. And this is where fans have got to learn. Jacobs has done it loads to us this summer. He did it with me just on Thursday and on Friday about Lemaines, where he's like, it might happen. They're looking at it. They see a couple of hours later, we're progressing the deal. And people go, Ben was wrong. No, Ben was just tempering us because he did say it could happen, but he also said Man United might not push forward. He's giving you an honest assessment. Yeah. He could just guess and go, they definitely will proceed. And then if they do, he gains credibility in the short term. But if they decided not to, and he admitted that, then he'd be completely wrong. But football fans are the worst. I think football fans are worse than the journalists, because we only want to hear what we want to hear. Does that make sense? And that's all of us, I think. It's easy to little bro Spurs. Hincapie is a beast. I don't know too much about him. I mean, I've watched Leverkusen play, and I don't remember him. Does that make sense? And I'm going to be really fair and honest about it. But a lot of people on the TL that are raving about him right now. I've been reading it while you guys are talking. And Arsenal fans this guy's sounds like a really good left back, but he loves a defender, doesn't he? But also that must mean that Zinchenko and others are going to go. They must be very confident those guys are gone.
Kivior is on his way to Porto by the looks of it, so he's gone, and looks like Zinchenko is going as well.
So I'm just confused because he doesn't seem like he's too good to be a Kivior replacement in that sense. Like he's not £52 million signing doesn't replace Kivior. Mosquera sort of replaces Kivior. I'm struggling to understand how he fits into the Arsenal team with so many. They've got 6 centre-back options currently, don't they?
So he plays centre. Yeah, he plays centre-back predominantly. So look, my view of it is this. I think this is Arsenal future-proofing for the fact that Saliba might not be here.
Yeah.
That would be my view. With Mosquera, there's a lot of hype around him, and Hincapie, or is it Pie? Because there's an accent over his name, Hincapie. Either way, Piero, we could just call him. It's probably easier. Man like P. Is this about future-proofing for Saliba maybe going? And Saliba might even sign a new deal. But as we all know, signing new deals doesn't mean you're not going to leave. It just guarantees a fee for the selling club as opposed to a higher fee for that selling club rather than the value dropping. So there is an element here where there might just be future-proofing. But you are right in terms of who starts like the main games this season. They're all on the bench of Saliba and Gabriel because they're the best centre-back pairing in the country, you could argue. So, yeah, an interesting one. But 23 years old, yeah, interesting indeed. I said it, Eze wouldn't have ended up at Spurs if Arsenal fully gave up in the pursuit, and I'm glad they didn't. Heads up, Spuds, is what Legrand says here. Why would any of you survive? Would any of you survive the Ranger Jackson attack?
I saw that. Do you know who that is, Terry?
It's Rampage Jackson's son.
Yeah. That was crazy still.
Yeah, absolutely mental. Absolutely mental what he did to him. And let's see what happens with it. Grey Wolf Dinner here says Hincapie is class. He's a massive upgrade on Calafiori and Miles Lewis Skelly. I wasn't worried about Arsenal this season, to be honest, but I'm changing my mind. I feel sick, is what Grey Wolf Dinner says here. And Jesus will be sold or loaned. Forward incoming Rodrigo. We're going to come back to that story a little bit later in the show as well. James here says Hincapie can play as an overlapping left back as well. Yeah, we saw a lot of that actually on Saturday with Calafiori overlapping and doing what he does there. Ornstein says he's prioritizing Arsenal over others. Yeah, if Ornstein puts a Spurs bit in there, there's nowhere to go. But it was Ornstein and The Athletic in their joint reporting that also said that when United got, what's it called? When we got Mbumo, that it was Newcastle and Spurs were bidding more than we were. Another bit of breaking news. Napoli are now advanced in talks with Manchester United over Rasmus Højlund, along with conditional option obligation discussed worth 40 million with a loan fee. Fabrizio has just retweeted his tweet about that from 2 days ago. So the exit of Rasmus Højlund is increasing. We're going to come back to Arsenal a little bit later in the show, ladies and gentlemen. We will come back to that. I want to go. We were going to start with Manchester United, but we had that breaking news. Of course, we had to go to. But a draw yesterday for Man United. So, I mean, it feels like a defeat, though, if you read the timeline this morning. It is meltdown, carnage central, as we all understand. Amorim out is picking up pace. A lot of people want him gone. Some are Amorim adjacent, which is one of the funniest phrases ever. It's like close to being Amorim out. There's also reports that Kobbie Mainoo could push for an exit in the last week of the transfer window after not starting the first 2 games of the Premier League season. Obviously, KJ, you weren't on the match reaction last night. You were out ahead of time, but performance-wise yesterday, can you understand why a lot of United fans this morning are calling for the head of our manager?
Yeah, to be fair, yeah. Like, if you go by the entire time that Amorim's been here, then yes, I can understand why, even though it's so early in the season, that Man United fans are wanting him gone. Man United fans are jaded, they are tired, they're exhausted, and they want to see our team be better. And yesterday was one of those games where, okay, cool, you've played well against Arsenal, you've lost, but most of the fan base were like, okay, cool, we saw something. We can get over the loss. We can forgive the loss, even though we're not happy about it. But against Fulham, we need to see that again, and we need to win, and we need to win well. That's where many Man United fans were at. We get to the game, and for half an hour, it looks like we might bring that same energy, bring that same intensity that we had against Arsenal. so everyone's looking good. We missed a few chances. Okay, it happens. We then miss a penalty. And then ever since then, it just went downhill. And then we just became slow and lethargic, allowed Fulham to build up into the game, allowed Fulham to get a foothold into the match and get the deserved equalizer in the end of the day. And a draw was something that I predicted. I saw many Man United fans saying 4-0. I saw many of them saying 3-0. We're going to batter them. It's going to be easy. And I didn't believe so because I don't believe we're that team yet. I do think that we will start slow this season. And then towards the end of the season, that's when we're going to start to see the real fruits of our labor that we put in. But I can understand why Man United fans want Amorim gone, because the same issues we saw by the back end of last season were shown again today. Oh, not today, yesterday, and against Fulham. So personally, I wouldn't just say Amorim out right now, but I'm starting to get worried about him. Is he making enough tactical tweaks in games to make us win games? Is he playing the players in the best roles that he can? And listen, is there something that he can do in terms of formation, in terms of playing style, that he can make sure that we can win games? Because at the end of the day, as much as I appreciate what he's trying to do, you have to get results. You have to show United fans what they're going to be looking forward to in the future. And I've seen bits that I liked, but these kind of results, these kind of performances, if they continue on, it'll be a lot harder for him to maintain the support of Man United fans. So I understand, and hopefully he can sort it. Because one thing I'll say is, when he got his first ever job at Casapia, he played 2 games with 4-2-3-1. He lost both games. He then made a dramatic turn in his way of playing by going to the 3-4-3 that we see today. And it's same up for where his career is at now. You know, he got him into Braga, got him to Sporting, and they did amazing things at Sporting. At Man United now, he needs to do that again. He needs to do something dramatic in either his team selection or formation or playing style or something. Something dramatic needs to happen for this to turn around, because he's got it in him. He's clearly got it in him. But I feel like he needs to do it again, because what he's been set on now for the last how many years doesn't work over here. Or it's not his full potential is not working. So maybe it's a case of, do you look at yourself and change a few bits in your system, change a few bits in the way that you play, to make sure you're maximizing the coaching ability that he has. That's what I would say.
It feels like Groundhog Day. So like last season when you kept Ten Hag and then you were like, let's give him a chance. And now it's like, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's not making the tactical tweaks to improve us. Bruno, why does he still have Bruno in the team? He's not good enough. He's costing us points. And then 10 games in, Amorim gets sacked. That's what it feels like it's going to go. I think it's very difficult because he came in when he didn't want to come in. He said he wanted to wait until the summer. He came in at his own accord. And now because he's been in with a terrible team for like the last 6 months, like I don't think his record is not good enough. And the one thing I worry about him is I look at the players that he's been with for 6 months. And probably only Yoro, who I think was a very good talent coming through. And I think obviously he was impressive again yesterday, I thought. And obviously got the goal. But other than maybe Yoro, he hasn't improved any players. That would be the one worry that I look at it. And I would say, like what KJ said, he's maybe not, like you talk about, when you hear Slot talk about what he does in games, he adjusts based on the team that he's playing. He's happy to change how he wants to play. And obviously you have some core principles, he understands that. But like he's happy to change on who he's playing. I think all the good managers do that. But it feels like he's a bit rigid in terms of how he wants to play, and he wants to play the 3 at the back, which is fair enough if that's his style. But you need to be able to complement that when it comes to playing teams. So last week against Arsenal, I think they were happy to offer Arsenal to maybe come on and then play through a little bit of the press. But I think when you play against teams that are obviously going to defend a lot deeper, this is where United need to get the points against these teams. I feel like he struggles to break them down. He doesn't really know what to do in those situations, which is a worry.
United is for me, yeah. I'll say a guy that's had, what's it coming on? I was going to say 9 months, but it's probably about 10 months now. He's about 10 months, ain't he?
I think he's late You're getting close to it. Yeah, like, it came in late November, I think.
Sort of like the
November,
20th. I know it was after the international break, weren't it?
Yeah.
So a guy that's nearly had gone on 10 months should have seen sustained progress in the team. I don't feel like he has an excuse now where it's, mid-season he's come in and it's not improvement. Last week, there was some encouragement you can take from the performance, against Arsenal. But at the end of the day, you lost. So as much as you can take some encouragement, the one thing that a lot of people took from that game was the performance was decent, but now we need to go beat Fulham. And that was the question. Can you go beat Fulham? Because last year, this was the problem, is you can have a good performance against a big side, but then against the small games, you're not getting the job done. And yet again, yesterday, just watching you guys, the problem is the exact same things that you've had. Like, I can't understand why a central midfielder was not prioritized as the first sign in this window. I get, obviously, like you say, transfers can come in any order. That's fine. But now that you've spent £200 million this window, it's not like you spent 75 million on 3 players each. That money should have went into a central midfielder. Because I'm watching you guys yesterday. You've got Bruno in the midfield who's just exposing you guys yet again because he steps out of position. He, again, sort of just for the goal that you guys conceded, Smith Rowe peeled off the back of him. And it's the same old things. We all knew going into season Bruno was going to be a problem in that midfield. You can't start him there because if you do start him there, then you need to have someone who can cover ground and pretty much make up for all the space that he's going to leave in behind. When I was watching you guys yesterday, Fulham just looked like the better team still. I still feel like you guys aren't looking better than the teams you're supposed to be better than. They were causing problems down the right-hand side with Tete. Like, you guys were making Tete look like one of the best fullbacks in the league. He was doing stuff yesterday. 1-2s and just causing Dorgu all sorts of problems. Like I said, Lenny Yoro's the only one who could probably look at and say, Amorim's done something decent with him. But then all the other youngsters, let's have it right. Garnacho was a promising player before Amorim come in. He's not made him progress, and not being funny, he's kicking him out the door now. He's kicked Rashford out the door. He's kicked all these other players out the door, which is fine, because Man United fans didn't want them there anyway. But then with the players that he has got there that he's supposed to improve, like say Kobbie Mainoo, a player that should be building your team around because he's supposed to be the future of the club. He's someone who can't even get into the team, can't even get minutes. And when you talk about, the profile of midfielder he's the one that's probably most adaptable and someone who you can mold into the type of player you want. So I'm just looking at this and I'm saying same old Amorim. Same old Amorim at this point. He's not improving. He's not changing. And Man United is looking at that you're going to be in the same position as you was last year and you're going to have to sack your manager in 10 games.
With the Mainoo situation as well, it's actually funny because it's going to divide so many United fans. So it's going to cause like a rift. So if they keep him and he doesn't play, they're going to be like, we're wasting his talent. And then if they sell him, it's like we've sold one of our best academy prospects in like years. And then that'll cause even more tension, especially if the results don't come. So it's like kind of lose with the Mainoo situation. But at the end of the day, like when we talked about last week, I know there was a lot of excitement among United fans with the performance, and it was a good performance. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you play if you aren't getting results. And going into the game against Fulham, it was like, right, we can put in a good performance. Like, I think the Cunha could have scored early in the first half. I think if he scores that, then that changes maybe the landscape of the game. And then you have the Bruno miss. So there were opportunities there for them to go out and actually put down a marker and go and win the game. But it's kind of the same things. Even like last season, is not scoring goals. You know what I mean? Like not taking your chances, even if you were creating.
Yeah. And that's where, listen, I think that the criticism is all fair in all angles and it all holds some water. And I still get the point that George makes that midfield should have been the priority. We still don't win the game yesterday with Belieber. Nothing for me overly changes because we missed the chances. Belieber in the game against Arsenal, we don't win it because he wouldn't make us defend corners better. That's been, Bayern Dare's the big issue there. And we missed the chances. So the word that I used yesterday, and I'm going to say it again now, is panacea. Man United fans are always in a state of panacea when things are going wrong. And essentially that is this cure-all. There is a solution or a remedy that will fix everything. This one thing will fix everything. Bring me, and you guys see it on the, bring me Belieber, we're ready. We're not. Bring me a new goalkeeper. We're ready. We're not. Sack the manager. Go back to a 4-2-3-1. Watch this team cook. we're not going to. We might get better, and people go, see, look at that, we're winning more games. Win percentage is up by 20%, but that's going to give you short-lived dopamine release. It's going to make you feel better in the short-term instance. We're still a massively broken football club, and I'm not even against Amorim being sacked today. I'm not going to sit here and go, biggest mistake we can make, because it isn't. The biggest mistake we can make is going in a brand new direction. So I'm listening more to people's solutions to the problem than I am their complaints. Their complaints are all well and good, but your solution is where the real conversation is. And I gave this example yesterday. We'd all probably sit here and advocate that if a government we were looking to vote for said they're going to give free gas and electric to the elderly, the OAPs, the pensioners in the winter months, so none of them were freezing to death, we'd all go, great policy. But depending on how they were going to fund that policy may change our mind, right? The solution to creating that policy is more what we're interested in. Well, where are you getting the money from? Are you taxing the billionaires? You're taxing the working class? You're cutting money from schools in the NHS? You're cutting funding here? How are you funding it is the thing for me. And that's where I'm at with Man United, because I'm jaded as well. And the one thing one game I'm not going to play at all with this situation is one of panacea, which is drop Bruno for Kobe and sack this manager, watch us cook. I can't even, people want to come on this channel and say it, they'll be given the platform. I'm not going to be engaging in those conversations. Why? Because I have 12 years, 13 years, and ample examples where that same type of solution, get rid of Ollie and that virus Pogba, watch us fly. And George, you've been here years. Jamie, you've watched content and been involved for years. Once Rashford's out of this team, watch.
Oh, yeah.
Once Ten Hag's gone, a lot of the guys that have turned early on Amorim, we were talking in our group chat last night to Staffy. Staffy's gone. He said that we've hired the wrong guy, that he's a scrub. It was only 5 or 6 games ago. So a few months, but games ago, he was putting in stats into the group chats and saying, look, the entries into the box and we're doing this. And when we get better finishers, the system's going to work. 4 or 5 games later, it's like, no, it's a bum. And it's fair. People can change their minds. And I'm not suggesting for a second people can't. But in terms of what I'm going to engage in fully, I want solution-based analysis for this, because my biggest fear isn't sacking Amorim. If he has to go, he has to go. It's the club changing direction. And I don't mean a manager that comes in and adjusts the formation. I'm talking about a manager that looks at the 250, 300, 400 million spent building this new squad and goes, I don't like half of them. That for me is the road to ruin. Why? I have tangible and I have tangible and clear evidence that what I'm saying is true. It's not theory, because we've done that with all the previous managerial changes and we haven't got better. I'm not satisfied with adapting to these players and coming 8th and going, oh, look, we're better though, because we're still not going. I still don't believe that copying the last 12 years worth of mistakes is going to fix us. That all being said, because I wanted to preface that at the beginning, the manager's making a massive mistake with Bruno Fernandes. And for me, I've had a lot of people call me out. They go, you're captain, you're player. Listen, what he said about the penalty thing, Bruno, yesterday, I'm going to call it out. I won't defend players that I like when they shut the fuck up moaning about the referee. Take the penalty and score and don't whinge about it. 100%. And Bruno, if you're watching this, I mean it. Shut the fuck up moaning about that. It's absolutely ridiculous. I do believe it partly made him miss the penalty.
No, it is.
He lost his concentration. There's no defending that. The manager playing him in central midfield. Well, that's not why I advocated for Bruno. I've never sat here and gone, one of the best 8s in the world, watch him cook. No, he's been one of the best 10s in the world for the last 4 or 5 years. Our manager doesn't want him as a 10 anymore. He wants more athleticism in those positions rather than his passing ability. Ruben's making a mistake playing him in the middle. And again, it's the lack of analysis on it. It isn't the heat maps people keep talking about, because the heat maps show where he's picking up and playing the ball. And this idea that he shouldn't be stepping up from a central position to the edge of the box when we're attacking is stupid, because DMs do that in the bigger teams. Look, and I'll give you an example. If the DMs and CMs weren't meant to push up during attacks, how did Paulinho score against City? Because he fucking pushed up with the attack. He's meant to be there. But it leaves a hole, because if he has that shot and it ricochets, there's now a hole in his position that theoretically a team could exploit. It exists for every team. For me, the issue is his discipline when we're sitting. He pushes out. And George, you said it perfectly. He'll push out when he should sit. And the proof in the pudding, and this is where Amorim's got to make a decision. Yesterday in the game, when we put him and Mount in the middle, that got the most criticism. It's when our midfield was at its best. And do you know why? Because Bruno went, oh, I can't leave him now because he's not a DM. I better sit with him. He sat with him, and they didn't pass through us. Ugarte comes on. Bruno steps out of line. Now there's a fucking big hole again. And for me, the Mainoo thing, I'm a little bit torn on Mainoo. I rate the kid so highly. I want to see him given a chance, and I want to see him given a run in the team. I'm at a point where if it goes wrong and he ain't good enough, I'll put my hands up and say I was wrong. But I want to see him given 3, 4, 5 starts to see what he can do. I don't like this 20 minutes here, starts this game, not done it. I want to see him given a chance. At the same time, there's a lot of people online that are backing him. They make me question myself. And the reason why they make me question myself, these are the same guys that said Donny van der Beek was a clear player to Bruno Fernandes. They're the same people that said, watch what Pogba and watch what Sancho and watch what Martial do when they leave the football club. And you look at what they've done. They also said, watch how far off planet Earth the likes of McTominay will fall when they leave the football club. And it's always gone the opposite way. So this is a little jovial. There is this part of me, though, that's like, am I wrong about Kobe? Because I see the certain people I see backing him, they're always wrong about who's a good player and a bad player in our squad. That's the only bit that's making me a little bit, the Tom Skinner meme. I'm a little bit, whoa. Because I just look at the people that are backing it and go, oh, they're always fucking wrong about players. But that's a little jovial. On a real level, he needs game time. And that is where the manager is losing faith in people. But my biggest pushback, as I said at the beginning, is there are areas to criticize. But we've had the opportunities in both games to still win the matches before we were put under pressure and after. I'm seeing people go mad about how Silva and the Fulham players were talking about how to play against us, what our weaknesses are. Yeah, it's not nice to hear, but every team has weaknesses. It's about exploiting them. There was a weakness in Fulham's team yesterday, but 2 players that have barely been criticised and mentioned because it doesn't fit the low-hanging fruit popular narrative was when they squeezed the midfield because they made themselves narrow, our fullback should have been switching the ball to each other. Exactly how Spurs did to Man City on early Saturday afternoon. The players with the most entries into the final third pass-wise was Porro and Jed Spence because they were switching the play to the opposite side. We didn't do it. When we did, and we got the ball in those wide areas with space because everybody was crammed in the middle, Ahmad and Dorgu, barring Dorgu doing it once in the opening 5 minutes, which nearly led to a goal, we hit the post, they didn't run at their fullback. They didn't run. So again, I will criticize the manager for putting Bruno in the midfield. I will do that. You can even criticize some of his starting lineup. What I will not criticize, because I didn't do it with any other managers, I won't criticize a manager for Ahmad yesterday deciding not to take on his fullback. I will not criticize the manager, any manager, by and large, because I didn't criticize Maresca for Nico Jackson missing chances last season that he should have scored. I'm not going to blame Amorim for Garnacho last year and Højlund last year missing sitters. I'm not going to blame him for the 3 or 4 goals we should have scored in the Arsenal and the Fulham game ever before we were under the cosh that would have given us the insurance that we needed in a match. I'm not going to blame him for that. So I'll say the word again, the panacea, this idea that if we I'll change the midfield, watch. No, we still miss those chances. There's more than one problem at Manchester United. And I just don't want us to lose sight of that because we always create this environment online where fix one thing and we're sorted. And then we end up like we felt yesterday, disappointed and deflated because we build ourselves into a false sense of security. And that's maybe more my anger at this, is looking at the fans and thinking, you're not repeating the same weird sort of cure-all bollocks that we've done in the past. And it deflects for me away from the actual problems at the club because it's just jarring to hear the same nonsense over and over again. But it weren't great yesterday. And I suppose my last bit I'll say on it, and I'll go back to you guys, is I actually think the performances at the minute are more important than the wins in the longer term. I get you're both right in terms of him getting sacked and fan emotion. The wins are important, but the performances for me, we tried to win the game when we went 1-0 up yesterday, and then things started to fall apart because we become nervous and we stop playing the game, and we start playing the moment, and we become too emotional. We need to focus on performing well. And I think if we can create consistent performances, we'll get more wins. I think if we start chasing wins we won't perform well enough, and I don't think we'll get them. I think it's a little bit chicken and egg with Man United right now. Yeah. We have to get the performances right to get the wins. And yesterday, I was okay with bits of our performances, but it was as soon as we got that goal, I became more nervous than when it was 0-0 because I knew what these players do. These players start trying to win games rather than perform well to win the game, and it always falls apart. And that's where that's probably my biggest criticism of Amorim. He hasn't drilled it into the players yet. He hasn't got through to them for them to be able to do that yet. And that's where I see our biggest issue being, because it will pass on to the next coach, by the way. That is a mentality issue that I don't think can be fixed quickly, and it will go to the next guy. You might get an adrenaline kick and a manager bounce, which we didn't get this time around, but it will come back. Why do I know it will come back? Well, I've seen it with the last 4 managers over an 8-year period. So I'm not convinced that just some new manager is going to fix it like this, because, well, why couldn't the other guys? You know, there's something deeper going on here, but very disappointed with the result yesterday. I was happier after losing to Arsenal than I was drawing yesterday, because the performance was better. And I'm all about the performances, because consistency of performances is what produces wins for me. But yeah, not a great day. And I do understand why people want the manager out.
Yeah, listen, I've said give him better players and then he will get himself sacked or not sacked, because he'll prove that he's good enough or not. So we're getting him. He hasn't got a complete overhaul, which obviously no one expected in the first summer, at least not me anyway. He's gotten 3 new players in the strike force, because goals, I know George said we need to prioritize midfield, but goals were like a big issue for Man United, and you can see why, because when we don't score goals, we don't really win. We don't really have the confidence to keep going to make sure we score goals. So yeah, he's got 3 new attackers. He's got, again, the preseason that he wanted, that he said he wanted at the beginning. He's saying like preseason is where most of his work is done. He helps build a bond. He helps get people on side and play good football. You've had your preseason now. Okay, cool. You need to start showing what we're hoping for. And me, as a guy I'm not always manager out. I don't go manager out say like all the time. I was saying with Ollie, same with Ten Hag. I like to give them a chance to prove themselves. Like, listen, you've had a year. First year is normally a free hit for me. Second year, I need to see improvement. I need to see progression. If I don't see that, that's when I'm like, okay, this guy needs to move on. And Amorim needs to show that. And I would not be upset if we sacked Amorim. I'd be upset, not because Amorim's gone, because I think Amorim was the guy. And if we sack Amorim, that's all over. It's not that. I would be sad because Man United would be failing still. That's why I'll be sad, because if you don't sack your manager who's doing well, so I need him to do well so that Man United are doing well. That's my main concern. But then when you do things like you did on against Fulham and the stuff with Mainoo, it makes it really hard. It does make it hard.
Yeah, and look, Man United fans, and I know you boys have seen this, your fan base. Everyone's trying to win the debates. Everyone wants to be right, and I understand it. When it comes to managers, and people don't want to back a loser because it makes it. If you know, and Lou said it right when one of her comments earlier, where she said, "Why does it have to be so bloody polar opposite though? Can't you be Amorim in and still question his decisions? You can be, but you get called weak, you get called a bitch, you get called a cuck. You know, you get called horrible things. You're seen as a loser, and people don't like it, and people go early. And I understand why." But you've also got to look at it this way. We've created, again, if you're an XG person, we've created 3.91 XG. So far this.
Can we talk about that problem though, Terry? Because you did talk about that, like the creation of goals and the finishing, putting the ball in the back of the net. One thing that Staffy pointed out to me when I'd done a show a few weeks ago is whenever you play Cunha in the striker position so far in preseason, and from what he had seen, he'd always perform poorly. He's just not good whenever he plays in that striker position. One thing that we've known about the player as a whole, just in his time as Wolves player, but even his time as in his career, because he's not a younger player, he's quite old. He's had big moves. He's not a consistent finisher. He misses the easy chances, but scores the hard ones. You just look at his goal catalogue for Wolves. He'll score a 25-yarder, but missed the open chance early before. He has consistently had this problem throughout. But an Amorim decides to play him and make him the focal point of the attack. When you have Xerxes, who, he's just come back from injury, but he's on the bench. Sesko, he's available, he's on the bench. I feel like this is just poor decisions from manager. Again, like you have to look at the manager's decision making there and say that maybe you should play the player in his best position, pull him to the left hand and play one of the strikers.
I agree with that to an extent, though. But I'm also seeing Arteta get criticised for Saka doing his hamstring again because he rushed him back last year. So you start playing Šeško before he's completely ready, and he pulls a hamstring or injures himself, he gets criticised. Xerxes been out for months, actually, and has only just returned. We starting Xerxes, and he does his hamstring again. The manager then gets called out for rushing him back and everything else. We've got to be careful there. Equally, though, and look, this is where I think everybody has the ability to be inconsistent. We all do it. And I know that some of that XG is a penalty, but it's still a chance to fucking score, and we missed it, right? I'm not going to discount it. But we've 3.9 XG. We underperformed. XG was lower last year than it should have been, but we underperformed it. So far this year, you look at like Arsenal, they've had 4.07 XG, but they've overperformed it by 1.9 goals, as an example. Man City, who obviously lost, they've had 3.5. They've overachieved in it. You start going to the teams. You have to go to the league table. You've got Tottenham have created 3.26 XG, overperformed it by 1.4. As an there, you've got Forest that are fourth and Man City actually that are still sitting. Obviously, there's games to play today, all above their XG as an example. And we need players that finish and put the ball in the back of the net. One of the things that I got criticised for where I defended Rasmus is there was far too many games where we didn't put the ball on a plate for him. Can't do that. It's his movement. It's this. It's that. It's the other. Bring me better players. Well, in the first two games, I like Mbumo and I like Cunha, but they have missed massive chances in those games, or good chances in those games where maybe they've shot too early, or they've not got the angles right, or they've missed it the shot, or the header wasn't in the corner enough. And that, for me, I can't blame managers for. I never have, and I never will. I do get your point that Šeško should come in, and he spoke yesterday about the player not being settled yet and everything else. I didn't like that reasoning. At the same time, he's barely kicked a ball all pre-season, and this is more about the recruitment and getting the players in earlier. Like I said all summer, I wanted 3 new signings by the end of that first week of pre-season, so the players were ready to start the campaign. I wanted a goalkeeper weeks ago, because again, we haven't discussed it once on this show yet. But let us not pretend that Bayern, most of their opportunities yesterday came from set pieces or the aftermath of a set piece. So the cross is cleared and there's a shot from the edge of the box. And Bayern there, listen, we can blame zonal marking, man marking, the hybrid models. Not all of your goalkeepers are catching those fucking crosses. They're not even that good at crosses. They're decent crosses, but they're catchable for the keeper. He's flapping at every single one.
Yeah, he was terrible.
You listen to the crowd when they got a corner and how they got up. We all know, both of you, your fam, when your crowd gets up, typically does your team suddenly start playing better?
Yeah.
So when the Fulham crowd's getting excited because of corners, because they know they've got a great chance of scoring, and the excitement gets up, then we're then sitting there and going, oh, how do we dominate the first 20 minutes and suddenly it go the other way? Well, because
it puts anxiety into the United team as well. Like, as in every time they get, I remember when Mason Mount, there was he passed it out for a corner. You can see Amorim going mad in the sideline. He's just like, what? Like, you're putting us under like pressure for no reason, and then obviously the anxiety builds in the team.
No, I agree. And look, Amorim, and this is what I'm saying. This is the problem when it comes to having these conversations, because, like I said, it's the panacea, and it's the this is the issue. We always, Man United fans I think are the worst fan base in the world for this. Again, a lot of the people that I'm seeing that are just like, Amorim is the problem. Go back and look at their content. They were the ones that were saying that get rid of Cristiano Ronaldo. He is the problem at the club. They're never right, these individuals. And it isn't that they're incorrect about the thing they're criticizing, but it's the overarching statement being made off the back of it that I push back against. I can't blame Amorim for players not taking their chances. I can blame him, by the way, for Bayern there. But I also think we're trying to force Onana out the club because we want to sell him, and there's an element of that going on. But then the club should have got Lemaines weeks ago. Should have got him weeks ago, because he's one of the best keepers in Europe at collecting crosses. The game could have been different yesterday, and these things need fixing. And by the way, you can get rid of Amorim. You can bring in a new coach. You keep Bayern there in goal. That stuff ain't getting better. So I think we need to be very mindful about this one size fits all solution. Some super chats here. This from Ira. He says, Terry, it ain't rocket science. A team's identity is its midfield. Look at United's midfield. Bruno Casemiro. Look at Spurs, Arsenal. Listen, I agree. When people say, "Oh, Thomas Frank's won back-to-back games, why can't Amorim?" Their midfield much better than ours. From a physical standpoint, we need it in the league. I don't disagree with you. At the same time, I can't. And this is, don't think of this as dismissal. Think of it as additional. I can't ignore the fact we're still missing the chances, because maybe we create more with a stronger midfield, but we still missed it. We created loads against Arsenal. This amount of games last season, we didn't put the ball in the back of the net where we were the better team with the midfield that weren't good enough. And we all know that. That's why last year it was got to replace Garnacho and Højlund. That was the main thing. So it's not about dismissing what you're saying. Please understand that. It's about not ignoring the other key issues. Amorim backing Bruno may cost us this season. He should get in a strong midfielder, as it's more shaky than the jelly in the fridge. Do you know what I mean? I am going to say this, but people are going to say, "Oh, you're defending the manager." Maybe some of these decisions is showing the board, get out there and get the player. A lot of the journalists that have reported on the manager wanting Belieber have been very forthright in he's been demanding the club show ambition and get this midfield done. Maybe there's a statement being made here that this is what I've got. It's terrible. You need to buy me someone. We'll only ever get the answer to that if they buy someone. Because if we went out and got a really good midfielder tomorrow, and then he starts Casemiro and Bruno away at Man City, then we know that's what he wants. Do you get where I'm coming from? So, but again, I'd still rather the player be bought and we see if that theory comes to fruition than not buying him. You know, so I think we've got, listen, the manager's wrong for playing Bruno in central midfield. I can't defend that decision. I'm not going to defend that decision. Amorim becomes the first manager who has ever, after a loss, said, this proves that we can beat any team, then draw the next game versus a mid-table record breaker.
No, that's definitely not true. Like, I'm pretty sure many managers.
Yeah.
I think David Moyes definitely said that.
Come on, let's be honest here. Listen, I'm not here trying to defend Amorim. I'm just here saying that he will die on his own sword. But you don't have to lie. This is the one thing about people with agendas. You don't have to lie to get your point across. If they're as bad as you say, you don't need to make up foolishness like that.
We're United, right? They have, I'm looking at here, they have Grimsby and Burnley. So Grimsby in the Carabao Cup and then Burnley at home next. So they're two winnable games. Get kind of positivity back on side, I would say. Then you have Man City away. And this is where it comes in. I think you have to be realistic about the expectations of United. Like Brighton last year and Bournemouth, okay, they dropped points in 23 games. And they got 61 and 56 points respectively. Like, I think that's United's level. I think it's are going to drop points in like 23 games. Like getting 15, 16 wins would be a good season for where he's at. And I just think, obviously, the loss against Arsenal, you would probably say against maybe some of the bigger teams, you'd probably just take the loss or drop points on the chin. But then against Fulham, fair enough. But I think you're kind of looking at like a win every kind of in between 2 and 3 games to be like a good season. It's just more about, I think, as Terry said, you want the performances to be good, but he needs the results as well.
Yeah,
that's absolutely.
Yeah.
If we get 8th, that's a good season. So we
I think I predicted 7th. I did. I predicted 7th, and it's still doable. We've got to score these goals, man. Midfield or no midfield, take your chances in football matches. It's one of the reasons that Forest were so good last year is they just took their chances when they were presented to them. The Spurs at the weekend took their chances when they presented, and Spurs were very, very good, by the way. I will say Spurs, but I'm not even shocked because Spurs' squad was nowhere near 17th last year. And I always look at Spurs and Man United very differently. The evidence is there on last year's shows. I didn't think Spurs needed people kept talking about rebuilds and you don't need a club rebuild per se. Like to win a league, you might need a squad to be better. But I don't even mean this disrespectfully. Your manager was just not utilizing the brilliant squad you had in the right way. Thomas Frank was always, and you know, irony in this, I'm seeing United fans again, go check their Twitter feeds. I just put in the name Thomas Frank and search back enough. When we were linked to Thomas Frank, not my level, my God, my club's broken. Now they're like, Thomas Frank's better than Ruben Amorim. Thomas Frank would have been a manager I'd have loved us to have got. I was an advocate of him.
Great manager.
I think he's fantastic. He's brilliant, and he understands when he hasn't got the best squad and the best team. He knows that, again, he has a philosophy, but he just will. I love what he does. What he does is very old school Man United. Fergie did it for 25 years. When we're the better team, we dominate the ball, we attack. When we're not, we'll absorb and we'll counter. And I love that about Thomas Frank. But you guys have got something we don't have, and that is a supremely athletic midfield, and it runs and it holds itself very, very well, and it's disciplined. And we need to add those players. At the end of the day, Maresca doing a very good job at Chelsea. Why are they improving? Because they've now added players that can score goals, where last year they went through 3 or 4 months where they weren't winning because players weren't scoring goals. It's about bringing better players into teams. What helps them is that amazing midfield, and we need to build that. It's just going to take time, because at the end of the day, 90% of our squad from 18 months ago needed changing, and I don't think any manager is going to fix us quickly. I mean that, but you must be well chuffed, George. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, do you know what I find funny about that? Is I remember a few years ago, Terry, and you will, is Man United fans kept saying, we need a more technical midfield. We need more technical players in our midfield. And now you've got the technical players. It's like, we need some more road runners. We need some more McTominay type players.
Listen, I said PMP. I've been screaming PMP for years.
But this is why a lot of the major voices in the Amorim out movement, and listen, I love Cobby, but the Cobby should play movement. This is why I find it hard to, when you get it in politics, you hear a policy and you go, oh, that makes, if you hear a quote and someone says Donald Trump said it, you think horrible. And they go, you've seen the videos, they go, actually, Barack Obama said it 8 years ago. You're like, oh, your mind changes. When certain Man United fans say things, I just think, oh, I believe it, but now they've said it, maybe I'm wrong. Because people like myself and KJ have spoke about athleticism, power, pace, passion, fury in the middle for years. And that isn't what we need. It's always what we needed. The problem is with Man United, we've always had such a broken, and this is why I don't want to change direction again. Because every time we change direction, you end up with a Frankenstein squad that's not meant for any one particular style, which is why you're not going to get the best out of it. The reason why Thomas Frank's going to work so well at Tottenham is Tottenham spent 3 to 4 years building squads for Jose's and Nuno's and Conte's. The problem is they just went, Nuno was never going to work because he was the 14th choice in the summer. And if he'd have been the first guy through the door, it would have worked. He's a brilliant manager. Jose and Conte, they're no good for a Tottenham because they want to be able to buy the best of the best. They're living in this world where they need the best of the best to make it work. They're never happy. Thomas Frank is perfect for what they've built squad-wise. Perfect. And this is the thing for Man United fans. I'm not married to any one identity of football, but I've said all along, whatever we picked, we've got to stick to it and build a squad that makes that style of football work. Because until we do complete that element of our club rebuild, we're never going to be consistent on the football pitch. And if we change direction again now and do another 400 million on players for a different style, that means in 2.5 years' time, you're going to still have a Frankenstein squad because you've done 400 million now on new players that are harder to sell because they're so early in their contracts, and you create this situation. So if Amorim does go, it has to be for a manager who at the very least needs very similar profiles of footballers. Otherwise, we are long-term fucked again. And if Man United fans are advocating for the opposite, you're a Glazer. You're as bad for the club as the Glazer. The only way to get results is to take your chances 100%. The aim of the game is to outscore your opponents. Yes, the midfield needs to be better. If you don't score enough goals, you don't win. Where I do agree with that is, to an extent, is had Cunha scored these goals and Bruno converted his penalty and we won 3-1 yesterday, 4-1 yesterday, but everything else went the same way, nobody would be sitting here moaning as much. Had we you take your chances, the analysis changes. And what I have learned in the last 2 games is a lot of fans that speak about performances for 5 years on socials, their performance, their results-based analyzers, and that's fair. You're allowed to be, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you've got to stay in your lane now. On Spurs, though, you guys did look amazing at the weekend, George. Really, really, really good.
Yeah, man, we look so good. Like you said there, I think the key thing, and I was someone who wasn't a massive advocate for Frank. I was like, yeah, Frank could be good, but I was open to seeing what he could do. I wasn't really for it or against it. But seeing him in a Spurs game, like every Spurs game I watch, I'm buying more and more stocks. I told people the Frank train has left the station. No more passengers are allowed to get aboard this one because, yeah, man, he's doing this. He's doing the business. He bullied Pep in that game. Like you said there, it's the adaptations from him. I expected going into that game, we're going to play a very similar setup to PSG. I thought, because Man City are a possession-heavy team, we're going to go into the shell of ourselves and just be the transitional, counter-attacking side. But we didn't do that. We had times in the game where we allowed them to play in front of us, but for large parts of it, we were pressing high up in that. Like, we were just doing a relentless press that they couldn't handle. Pap Sarr in that 10. I know he's not a 10, but that's showing you that you can get the best out of players that aren't just, you have to mold a player to be what you want him to be. He's not necessarily a 10, but Frank's getting the most out of using him in that position and using his qualities and making the most of his strengths. Even when you look at the likes of Brennan Johnson, he knows Johnson's a good deep runner. So what we're going to do, we're just going to have Johnson running off the back of Rico Lewis, take him out of the game. And he done that all game where he eventually got the goal off the back of it. And I just feel like we were so much better than City in every department. The midfield, like what you said, a lot of Spurs fans last season will tell you we had the worst midfield in the league. Like, there was no structure. It's pretty much what you see with Man United yesterday was what we used to see with Spurs week in, week out. Just completely exposed. The players are just running straight through. But when you've got the robustness and, you know, the destroyers in Paulinho, who had an absolute monster performance for me. He was the man of the match, just breaking up every play. Cherky just got absorbed into that. Like, any space that Cherky was in, he just gulped it up, absorbed it. And him and Bentancur done really well in the pivot. And for me, the game was just won in that midfield, man. We saw the performance Reinders had last week against Wolves, and it was like best signing of the window, best value, you know, they start to do all the stories. And then you see the game the other day and you're like, well, he's good, but he's only human, man. And he's not going to have a good game every single week. And we were just so much better than them in that sense. And then, yeah, man, Kudus just, you know what, when people said Mbeumo or Kudus, I'm happy. I told you I was happy with Kudus. I was damn sure happy with Kudus because he's a massive problem. Forget just going forward. I don't know if people saw the defensive work he was putting in. Just when we started to realize Doku was going to be an issue, he went, no, we're double teaming Doku, and he pretty much became a right wing back at that point. So Frank's getting the best out of all our players. We're flying right now. Yeah, it is the honeymoon period, so we can only take so much, but it's looking good, man, to have these performances against a team like City. And I know we beat City every year, so there's no surprise in that sense. But to have these performances against a big club with a new manager, it does give you that confidence you need, man.
Yeah. I think that Thomas Frank, I have him this season as an outside shot to get manager of the season. I really do rate him that highly. And I think going to Spurs, it's like, Spurs a huge club in England, but he doesn't have like the kind of, it's not like the expectation to go out and say win a trophy or whatever it is. It's more about like, say, bring the kind of fan base back, considering I know last year when the Europa League was great, but like the performance in the league just wasn't good enough for a team of that quality. And I think with Thomas Frank, it's actually interesting when you talk about like the comparisons maybe between Frank and Amorim. I think what Frank has shown in the first 2 games of the season is that like he's able to be adaptable. And he would have seen the game when Wolves against Man City with the high line that they were playing. They were trying to play the offside trap. And for the first goal, they were able to exploit that. Do you know what I mean? It is something that has been talked about, maybe Pep Linders coming into Man City, that they're going to play that a little bit more because that was something that he did at Liverpool. But you need the players to be able to play that. And Man City right now don't have a defence that are capable of doing that. So I think Frank exploited that like so well. And I think this season, he'll get a lot out of those players. I think last season, to be fair to Postecoglou, I think not having Van de Ven and Romero fit for majority of the season cost them. And I think having them two fit, I think they could be up there as like 2 of the best centre-back partnership in the league. Like I think if they're consistently playing together, they'll be up there like around like Kanate and Van Dijk and Gabriel and Saliba. I do rate them that highly. So I think, yeah, Frank just, he knows what his players' limitations are. He knows where to play them and get the most out of them. And I think that's what, bringing in Paulinho, I think Sarr is someone who can get around the pitch a lot. And if you have him sitting maybe as a destroyer, you're not getting to use him as much. And he's brought in Paulinho to be able to be that sitter. And then you've seen Sarr, he's just constantly making runs, pressing teams, making it difficult for Man City to play out. And the amount of times he won the ball back and was just playing it simple. He wasn't doing like anything too extravagant. He was just doing simple basics of football really well. So yeah, really impressive with Spurs yesterday, and I think they will have a really good season under Frank.
Yeah, I think he suits them perfectly. I think Spurs are a club that do well with managers that have been in the Premier League for a little bit and have got something to prove. You saw it with Redknapp, you saw it with Pochettino. So I feel like this is the kind of guy that can get them to where they want to be, which is consistent top 4. And and maybe challenge for a trophy here and there. Like, let's be honest, obviously the Europa League was great, but Spurs aren't known for trophies year in, year out. But I feel like with someone like Frank, they can build towards that, especially with listen, Levy is a leech. Levy is a tight ass. Levy is many things. But one thing I will say is the squad that is built is not actually that, like, I don't think it is as bad as 17th. I don't think it was as bad as people were trying to make out last season. I know Spurs fans have a real love-hate relationship with their squad, and it's understandable. Most fans are of their own team. But I look at that team, I see lots of physicality, lots of speed, lots of technical ability in different areas, and there's a good balance to that squad. The only problem that I got right now is big injuries to their attacking line, right? And last season was big injuries to their back line. So injuries seem to be a massive problem for Spurs right now because it affects them a lot. But as a whole, they've got a balanced squad that with a few upgrades can do well. And then also now they've got a balanced manager where, like you said, he knows when to defend, he knows when to attack. He can make tactical tweaks in game, and he can turn up for big games and be like, right, this is how we're set out. Because that PSG game, I know you guys lost on penalties, but for like 60, 70 minutes, we all thought Spurs were doing it. You know what I mean? Like, we all looked at the game and thought, they could actually do it because the way that's been set up. So I think Spurs are in a good spot. They're going to be a good team this year. They'll shoot up the league.
They got it down. They got it down. Viewers, let us know what you think. Jamie, I want to ask you about tonight. We are going to come back to Arsenal in a minute, people, but Jamie's got to leave us very soon. But I wanted to get his views ahead of the Isak and media derby tonight. Newcastle United versus Liverpool, a match that I think the whole footballing world is salivating over because of the situation with Isak. Interestingly, the reports this morning have said, like, Craig Hope, it's so funny, Craig Hope's come out and said, now what we're hearing is he will definitely be staying. Although they've been saying that since April in like reports. It's kind of weird that today they're putting that out there. But how do you think the game's going to go tonight? I think the one thing we could all expect is maybe the most ferocious atmosphere that we've ever heard at St. James's Park.
Yeah, I think coming out is just going to be so intense. The one thing I'm hoping happens is Liverpool get an early goal and it just like deflates them a little bit. But I think like if they get an early goal, then it's going to be very, very tough. But yeah, I think like say with this whole situation, Liverpool have put in a bid of 110 million and said Newcastle rejected it. They haven't gone back in, and there's like this. I think obviously some Liverpool fans have probably been a bit provocative, maybe towards Newcastle fans. But like Liverpool as a club haven't really done anything wrong. They put in a bid, they got rejected, and then the difficulties has been between Isak and how he's gone about it, and then Newcastle maybe whatever. We talked last week about the promise and stuff. So I just think the tension's obviously been built. Newcastle fans are annoyed with Liverpool and the fact that they might be taking a star striker. If there is, I feel like it could go either ways. It could be like a 3-3, or it could be because we're building it up so much, it's just going to be a 0-0, like something like that. It'll go one or two ways. But yeah, I think the atmosphere is going to be electric. And yeah, I do expect goals because I think, especially with this Liverpool team right now, they probably haven't sorted out what way they want to play. I think Newcastle may be missing Isak. It does maybe nullify them a little bit with Gordon up front, who doesn't look that threatening when he's playing as a striker. But yeah, I just think this Liverpool team will give up opportunities, just how they play. Do you know what I mean? You're going to get chances against them. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It is going to be it's probably the most anticipated game probably this season because of everything that's going into it. So it is going to be good fun.
I feel like there has to be goals in this one because when United, I look at like you said, you guys are going to give up chances. I was going to say not necessarily through the centre, but when you look at Konate's performance last week, there's a lot of questions regarding him. Like he was very bad, but more than anything, it's those fullback positions. When you look at Newcastle, they're very strong in those wings. Whether it's Jacob Murphy just being a consistent runner and making an option on that right, but Anthony Gordon, if he does play on the left. But they might go Gordon, Barnes, and Murphy when they're trying to completely overload you guys. They're going to get a lot of chances down those wings. And is it Frimpong's injured, isn't he? He's out.
Yeah. And Bradley came back into training this week. But I think he might play Szoboszlai there. I don't know if he'll play him straight away. So if he plays Szoboszlai there, it's even more opportunity. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I think with Konate, that game against Bournemouth was probably one of Konate's worst ever games for Liverpool. Yeah, he was that poor. So I think and he's not consistently that poor. So it'll be interesting to see what way he plays. But I think the big thing for Liverpool is Gravenberch coming back. I think him playing, it will help us a huge amount, especially in transition, because he's not someone that maybe like bombs on in the same way like Szoboszlai and McAllister like to do when they are playing. But there's also news coming out today that McAllister might not be there because his wife just had a baby. So he wasn't traveling potentially, so he might be missing. So we could see Szoboszlai play.
He didn't have the baby, did he? He didn't have the baby.
The baby, yeah.
King won't be happy with that one.
Yeah.
No, it's gonna be a great game. It's gonna be a great game. I know it's funny as well. Whatever the result is, I think it tips the Isaac situation in the balance of either team. Because if Liverpool win, I think that will just be like Newcastle being like, we can't keep doing this, man. We have to get in a striker, and we have to get this guy out the door so we can invest in the team. If they win, if Newcastle win though, they can use that to dig in their heels and be like, listen, Isaac can stay here all he likes. You got to pay up because we are here and we're surviving still. So it's going to be very interesting to see the outcome and the aftermath of the Isaac situation after this game. And I don't like Liverpool winning. But for the content, for the meltdown, and Liverpool win, and the next day, not even the next day, 2 hours later, boom, there's your Isaac bid. I need to see it.
Yeah, I look at it both ways. I'm excited about it because I think the only thing I don't want to happen on a footballing level, a draw is probably best because they don't need.
I think it'd be 2-2. 2-2. That's all I'm gonna go over.
But yeah, when I say footballing, from my point of view as a football fan, like a draw as a United fan, not that you guys are all well above us, to be fair, but I really do as a content creator, I want to win on either side because I think a win for either side just creates an amazing fallout that everybody can kind of react to and talk about and jump into. And yeah, I'm so excited about that element of it. I cannot tell you how excited I am about it, whichever side wins, because there is a genuine, the one thing about social media I love, and this is one of the reasons from a social media perspective, because we're all social media fans, whether we go to games or not, because we get involved in the social element. My club hasn't been good in the last 13 years since this industry has blown up. But what I love, you've seen it with Arsenal and Liverpool. I saw Liverpool fans bleating on and crying about Arsenal stealing a song of theirs for Gyökeres. I sit there and think the irony, considering you stole You'll Never Walk Alone off Manchester United. And it's we used it first. And it's not a dig. It's just the nature of it. And as a United fan, we've got a lot of original songs that we've created. And other clubs use it. But I'm not against it. I love that you were calling them out because Liverpool-Arsenal this season is going to be a great game. We saw it over the last 2 or 3 years with City and Arsenal. It's become a great game. We've now got it with Palace and Nottingham Forest. The atmosphere yesterday, I was out actually yesterday, as you can tell by the face, but I watched the extended highlights back last night. The atmosphere was amazing. I will say, I'm very, very upset that they're investigating, the FA is investigating the banner that the Palace fans put up because it had a cartoon picture of Marinakis holding a gun to the back of Gibbs White's head. They're basically, FA is investigating it. And I'm like, we're investigating satire now. I look at it like you're investigating. I don't want to get political. You start investigating satire, the whole world is in trouble. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it was a joke. It was an exaggeration. No one actually thinks that happened. It's crazy if Palace get in trouble for that as a football club, in my personal opinion. Considering the songs that most fans sing about each other's clubs, like, it's crazy for that to be a thing. But I'm really excited about it. But I think Liverpool will win. I think Liverpool are going to win 3-1. I think Liverpool are going to be very good tonight, very strong, and quite deadly. So I'm going to go 3-1 Liverpool tonight. I think they're going to come out.
It'd be interesting the result, because obviously with Liverpool playing Arsenal next week, like, say if they did lose, then the pressure on that game almost goes up even more so. Do you know what I mean? I know we're playing at home, but yeah, it's gonna be tense. It's gonna be tense.
It's gonna be a great game, but the schedule has been a disgrace, by the way. Why are we getting Liverpool, Arsenal next week, Man City, Man United the week after that, Man United? Like, why are we getting all these big games now so early? Let's put them put them back a bit. You know what I mean? Get it in there when everyone's ready. You know what I mean? When everyone's
but there's so many. And what I mean by that is, right, you've got the traditional top 6, big 6. You actually do the maths on it. There's going to be one of those games almost every other weekend. You then throw Newcastle, Liverpool, Newcastle United, Arsenal, Newcastle. They're games where there's needle in those games, right? You actually start adding in the other matches that have now got needle because of one thing or another. You're going to get one almost every week. It's almost every weekend. I get what you're saying, KJ. You almost can't not spread it out. You know, you look at Spurs as a club. You obviously got the North London derby. You got Man United, Tottenham's now a game that's has always got something on it. You got when they play West Ham, when they play Chelsea. There's not really when Spurs play Forest, there's going to be a little bit of stank in it because so you can't get. That's what I love. I mean, it's almost every weekend you've got these games that there's just something a little bit more riding on them than the 3 points, which I think is amazing.
I feel like the Premier League's truly back. I can't lie. Like this season, I feel like it's one season of the Premier League. Everybody's really like the quality of the Premier League, or I should say the big teams of the Premier League has just jumped up. So I feel like it's going to be a proper strong season, man.
But even then, I mean, there's just barely any easy games. Yes, Arsenal won 5-0, and it's a nice segue into that, I suppose. But Leeds gave a good account of themselves until the goals started going in, but they are just better than them. But you still look at it. Brentford, everyone's predicting to go down, who could look very good yesterday. I'd say so far this season, the only teams that I've watched where I've gone, oh, you really do not look good at all, have been West Ham and Wolves. I mean, Brighton actually sit in the bottom 3 after 2 games this year, but I don't think they've particularly looked awful, if that makes sense. Villa haven't looked much cop yet. United are down there. Like Palace actually sit 14th in the league. But again, I've watched Palace play and I don't think they've looked a bad team in their opening 2 games. So the league table right now, you know, Burnley have lost 1 and won 1. Leeds won 1 and lost 1. But, you know, against Everton, they were there against Everton, who, by the way, yesterday looked really, really good in their game. You start looking at it and you think Sunderland, a bit of mixture in there. City have gone from looking sublime to the ridiculous. And I think that's because there's so much quality top to bottom, which is why anyone can beat anybody in this league. And I think it's why it's why it's loved so much around the world. It's why it's watched by every nation. And it's why the every year the bids from international countries to buy the rights to the Premier League goes up, because everybody wants to tune in, because you just don't know. I think there's going to be a couple of gimmies this year. West Ham and Wolves feel like they might be 2 of those teams that most sides will get good results against. But you know, the fact that Palace after 2 games sit 14th, I mean, you shouldn't take the league seriously after 2 matches, to be fair, but they can beat anyone. Fulham are known. I didn't realize this till yesterday's game. I heard the stat. Last season, Fulham got the most amount of points they've ever achieved in Premier League history. And they weren't even one of the clubs anyone raved about last year, but they were still achieving things they'd never done before. So yeah, man, the league is crazy good. What did you guys make of Victor Gyökeres and Arsenal? I know, Jamie, you've got to.
Yeah, I got to jump. Cheers, guys.
I'll catch up with you soon, mate. Cheers, bro.
See you later. Take it easy.
What did you make, George? Obviously, as a rival, and maybe the biggest rival to that of Arsenal, what did you make of them at the weekend and Gyökeres getting his first goals for the club?
I'll be honest, the game itself, not really much to comment on, because it's sort of how you expect it. It's Leeds versus Arsenal. You expect Arsenal to have the fair majority of possession and just outwist them with too much quality. Arsenal eventually just had too much quality. You know, it's no surprise that the first goal comes from a set piece. You know, Arsenal are literally the goats at the set pieces right now. So no surprise with it there. But Gyökeres himself, poor first half. I think we can say that. Definitely a poor first half, sort of still growing into it, still gaining the confidence. But in that second half, he just done what was asked of him. You know, a lot of people, you complain about a striker who's a bit clunky. Like I said it, watching him, he looks a bit clunky. He looks a little bit heavy. He looks like he could probably lose a bit more weight to try and be a bit more agile in this Premier League and use a bit more of his acceleration, because we're always told how fast he is. But when you're actually looking at him run, he doesn't look that quick. But then again, at the same time, having that weight helped him when he did eventually get the opportunities to hold off all those defenders and create that little space around him where he could eventually pull off for a shot. He used his body to help create that. So it was a good finish. The goal he actually scored was really class, like cutting in off that left-hand side. You could say a trademark Gyökeres goal, because we've seen him score that so many times for Sporting Lisbon. So For me, yeah, I expect him to score a lot of goals this season. I think just looking at the way of type of player he is, he's a goal scorer. He's someone who's always going to try and create opportunities for himself. He doesn't always rely on other people. I do feel like Arsenal could have done better in the first half and even at times in the second half to feed him chances, because that's one thing. I don't feel like he was getting fed chance after chance. But again, that will come with time of Arsenal sort of getting used to him playing, getting used to his style of play. But away from that, I think the biggest takeaways for Arsenal is you can look at players like Waneri and Dowman and know that you guys are in good hands, man. Like they got these youngsters just breeding through. Dowman's a problem. Like I tried to sort of downplay it in the friendlies because like it's just a friendly. Let me see what he does when he plays in the Premier League, you know. But he played exactly the same, like the exact same thing he done against Newcastle, he done against Leeds, and eventually won the penalty. And it's just like, yo, this kid is serious. Arsenal are in very good hands. And even though this Saka injury does look like it's to be 3 to 4 weeks, he's only going to miss 2 games. There's an international break between that, so 2 to 3 games missed isn't the end of the world. And even with that, now you've got Eze signed, now you've got Waneri, Darwin coming through, and you've got Madueke signed. There's no excuse. You've got all the depth in the world to make sure that when Saka does get injured, you've got the backups there. So, yeah, no, Arsenal look good, but they done what was expected of them on the weekend.
Yeah, no, the way they built, the way they got into the game, I know a lot of Arsenal fans were complaining because like it was slow, it wasn't quick enough, they don't look great, but this just shows how goals can change games and change confidence. As soon as they got the goal in, they were the free-flowing Arsenal that we've seen in the past. So Gyökeres getting those goals are important because we're seeing it with Cunha and Mbeumo for Man United. You can tell it's weighing on them. Those Cunha chances, I reckon if he's in full swing and he's in full confidence, he scores those. And it's like, yeah, he's amazing. When players go to new clubs, especially attackers, they don't get their first goal for weeks, that's when there's an issue. Rasmus, the biggest thing is he took into in the league till December to score his first league goal. So that's the thing. Gyökeres getting his goal is important. You can complain about he hasn't been great over the 2 games. Man United didn't really do much, and at the start of the first half of Leeds, he didn't do much, but he's got his first 2 goals for Arsenal now. The first one was well taken. Second one was a brilliant pen. You will start seeing him scoring goals now, and that is more important for Arsenal than every single second of a game being the best team you've ever seen. Now, you don't need to be there every single week. You don't need to, when you're champions. You don't need that all the time. But the main thing is, have you got people who can score goals? Have you got people who are confident to change the game? And you have that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Confidence breeds better performances and better results. And Gyökeres will go from strength to strength now. And yeah, there'll be games where he doesn't do very much and doesn't score. This is just normal. I saw Henry have games where he did nothing in the Premier League. But nostalgia in all of us and memory, all you remember is the good moments, don't you? You think about it. Like Harry Kane did score a lot of goals, but all I remember of Harry Kane in the Premier League was scoring goals. You forget about the amount of games where he didn't do anything. And that happens to the very best players. Even Messi and Ronaldo, yes, their goals to game ratio was over 100% for their clubs, but I watched them have games where they did very little or didn't have good matches. And we live in a social media world now. And obviously, Gyökeres took the mick out of what Lee Gunner said about his hair. And I don't even, look, Lee was having a bit of a pop, but to be very fair to Lee Gunner has backed the signing of Gyökeres the whole time, has always said, I think he's always said that he's the player. I'm only going by clips I've seen where he's the guy they should be signing, the guy they should bring in. And I'm sure I didn't watch any of his content at the weekend. I was very busy. I didn't watch anybody's content this weekend, but I think that I watched the United stuff yesterday, that's to be fair, but I haven't watched anything after the Arsenal game, barring Talk Sport. I've never seen Cundy and O'Hara, the bitterness coming out of them after that game. Why is everyone doing that celebration? I'm like, I hate the celebration police, man. I really gets on my nerves because I think what we all do as fans, when it's our own club, we love it. But when we watch anybody else's club, it is always a bit cringe. But then you realize, well, actually, what we do must be cringe as well for everybody else on the outside looking in. But that all being said, like, Lee has backed Gyökeres, and he's absolutely right to, because the man is an absolute superstar goal scorer. And I loved his first goal for Arsenal because he showed he scores his own goals. He will score a lot of goals for Arsenal by himself. And it's really, really important. And, I look at Šeško at Man United. I think he has the capabilities of scoring quite a few goals himself, but you've got to put him into the situations to do it. But the first half goals enabled that second goal because Leeds had to push out more because they've got to try and score. So you get that space in behind. Goals change games. When Leeds were able to sit in and be hard to break down, and it slowed Arsenal's tempo, the crowd were getting anxious, there was problems. And again, the group chats were a great barometer for this. Because you know this, George, because you're like me. Like certain times we're active in there, and when the games start going the way we don't want, we go out. Like we're off, right? And it's the whole first half, all my group chats, top 6, straight facts. Straight facts is quite quiet actually, but it's top 6, the main one, and the match reaction ones. It's boom, Arsenal look this, Arsenal look that. This ain't working, that ain't working. Gyökeres is looking slow, fat. They score a couple of goals. Third goal goes in, and it's just tumbleweeds because everyone goes away. But that is a great barometer for how fans are also feeling. Rivals are getting excited and happy. First 20 minutes of Man United game yesterday, go to the TL, go to the group chat, silent. Because everyone's watching and fucking hell, United are looking good. We don't take our chances. The other team starts to come into it. The noise comes out. But this happens in the ground in reality too. When Man United fans are singing and the Fulham crowd's down, it's where it is. And that's why, for me, now that Gyökeres has got the monkey off his back and he scored that goal, I think I think he'll go to another level. But on Max Dowman, I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous, man. 15 and to be that good. If they nurture him and they protect him right, I'm talking physically protect him and make sure his feet stay on the ground. By the way, they've done a very good job with Saka, Guarneri, and Miles Lewis-Skelly, because none of those guys, I've not seen a single thing from those players that makes me think they're behaving in the wrong way. Do you know what I mean? They're not falling out of nightclubs at silly o'clock in the morning. I think, especially with Miles Lewis-Skelly, you can just tell. I've listened to his mum talk. I think he could be 35 and his mum's still going to be giving him licks if he's messing about. Do you know what I mean? And men need mums like that. You need mums that keep you on. I know KJ's mum keeps him on luck. I've met KJ's mum. I was scared of KJ. KJ's mum's lovely, but you don't get those women that are really lovely, but they scare you with it at the same time. Where you're like, oh, you're lovely, but you can just tell by the way they speak. There's a line. Do you know what I mean? It's just a line in life, and I'm like, oh shit. And I'm a 40-year-old man. But yeah, I think that if Dowman is nurtured right, which I assume he will be, fuck me, he's so good. He's so good.
Okay, Arsenal fans, don't take this the wrong way. I'm not trying to force him out of your club already, but he's the kind of talent that if he's nurtured correctly, Real Madrid come knock on his door and be like, mate, I know you were at Arsenal Academy, but here's 100 mil. Like,
yeah,
we're gonna come for him. Barcelona will come for him. Like, that's how good of a talent I think he is. That's how good I think he will be if he's nurtured correctly. And he's got his start. He's got his games now. To be honest, I'm not gonna lie. He should disappear for the next 2-3 months. Get him back into the academy. Let him do his thing. He's still in school. Let him finish his schoolwork. You know what I mean? Like, don't just keep throwing him in all the time. Like, bring him in, bring him out. Like, just let him have a taste. I
wouldn't say 2 or 3 months, but I do get your notion. I do get your notion. I mean, this is crazy how young he is, boys. Right? Because he's a minor. He could be naughty tonight at home and get grounded to a point where Arteta can't pick him. His dad could go, "You're so naughty at school, Max. You're not playing football." I don't think when I was naughty as a kid.
You know what his difference is, Tell? You might be like, "Yeah, I'm not paying the rent to this month." Then you guys go figure it out. You guys go figure it out.
Can you? I love that dynamic. Imagine having your son is 15 and he earns more money than your whole family combined. That's just crazy. Like, he's probably not on that much money right now, to be fair. But no, I hear you, man. But Barfield says no chance, let the boy play. I think you've got to be careful with that. Mm-hmm. You cannot play him every single week. Most 15-year-olds aren't built for it. And even when you give an example like a Rooney, who started playing a lot of 15, 16, yes, some of it was alcohol and the wrong food in different generation. Then my generation loved to drink. He still got to 28, 29. Another example, I still look at Cesc Fabregas, and I think his body... I think his ability waned a lot earlier than others because at 16, the man was playing regularly in midfield. 16, 17, playing regularly in midfield. I think you need to be really careful. Saka right now, everyone's getting mad about he played too much. Don't rush him. Nurture him correctly. there is a train of thought in Man United with Kobe that's actually what's going on. There's some issues around some of the physicality elements and playing him too much too young and it damaging him in the long term. Because we're not winning, nobody wants to even consider those ideas. But Arsenal just need to manage it right. You don't want this 15-year-old starting, because if he starts picking up bad injuries at 16, 17,
he's finished.
You could ruin him, man. And
yeah, I've been heavy on that. Like because I look at Sterling. For me, he's one player you look at from QPR through to Liverpool. He always played from 16 onwards, and we've seen the last 3-4 years. He's shadow of the player that he used to be. He's lost the pace. He's lost everything. And that's just because I think you played so much so early. Your body and the ability just breaks down on you a bit sooner. And also, I think because you start so early, you tend to lose that fight to want to go on, because you've already had these players had 14-year careers before they're 30. Like most players can't say they've played at the top level for 13, 14 years. And it ultimately it breaks them down. So yeah, I think there's definitely that risk, and I think Arsenal need to be very patient. But more than anything, Arsenal fans need to be patient, because like I say, he's 15. He could, have a few games this season and it'd be fine. Have a few games next season, and there's still so many years for him to develop. So I think they need to just make sure that they steady his progression.
Yeah, you're right. Because Seth Fabregas, I think, was 16, nearly 17 when he played a few games for. Well, he played in the League Cup. When was he born? I know he was born in 1987, but what month was he born in? So he was born in the May. He might have actually been more 16, 17-ish. It would have been 7. Yeah, it would have been 16. The following year, where he was 16 turning 17, this man played 46 games for Arsenal, and he was good enough. But then you start to look at his career. Again, this guy had a long career. He went on for a long time. But even in his last couple of years at Chelsea, he was good. But he just weren't injured. Yeah, he weren't quite as good. And then you look at it from 2018 to 2022 when he retired, his body just ended. And listen, I suppose there's an element of football fans. So this is where the loyalty conversation comes in. All we really want is to be good, and we want to be good now, and we want to win now. Yeah. You just got to be really, really careful. The Ryan Giggses, the Cristiano Ronaldos, actually Ashley Young's not at their level of footballer, but he's still playing at 40 odd. These are rare genetic specimens that they're not the barometer. Most footballers have between 10 to 12 years of top level full flight football in them. You see in boxing a lot. It isn't just how much someone gets punched. People have a certain amount of fights they can have. And I was looking at listening to this really interesting podcast about Tyson Fury. And look, Usyk's better than him. I don't hate to admit, I love Usyk, but I always want the British fighters to win. I always want Anthony Joshua to beat someone who's I like the rivalry of nations in that. It's great. But for me, I was looking at Tyson Fury. Those 3 fights against Deontay Wilder, barring the second one where he dominated, people don't realize how hard Deontay Wilder could punch. I think both Fury and Deontay Wilder essentially ended each other's careers by how much they took out of each other over those fights. And that happens with footballers. I think you could last longer sometimes if if you're winning leagues at a canter. You go through 4 or 5 or 6 crazy hard seasons of grit, especially as a midfielder, running up and down. That it can burn you out. You get injured. It just is what it is. And Fabregas is one of those players where in the modern day game, they get criticized. We used to criticize Man United. We'd criticize our managers for letting Rashford play injured. But I sit there in a generation where we used to celebrate players playing for injury. Fabregas played for Arsenal with a broken leg. He had a fractured leg. I remember him kicking a penalty and limping afterwards. And you remember him saying that his leg was fractured. And you're like, that's crazy when you actually think about it. And he ended up leaving in his pomp anyway. So you can make of that what you will. But I just think they've got to nurture these youngsters, man. Terry thinks boxing is like football. Physically, there are elements that are the same. Different parts of your body go. So it's more, it's your punch resistance is what can go in boxing. And when you punch, or sometimes it's just the fight to go through those the training camps are what's the hardest. But we're talking about physically your body going. And then when you start to, again, as a man of my age, I've gone through it. Your body goes through changes. And it's having the energy and the discipline and the determination to get your body to the best optimum level again and again and again. You see it in tennis. I'm seeing Djokovic now get beat by people that 3 years ago he'd have wiped the floor with. That isn't because they're better than him as a tennis player. It's his body is just gone, and he's actually done it for a very long time. He's lasted at the highest level. Him and all the three GOATs did it to extremely good levels, but sport will take it out of you. And the younger you start at the highest level, the likelihood is you're not lasting into your mid to late 30s. Most footballers, 32, 33 is normally where they're gone by. And that's because most start playing regular first team football around 19, 20 years old. When you start at 15, 16, you're starting that candle burning earlier. And you need to be careful in those years where your body's developing. And if you don't think,
he's calling it waffle, but we don't rare wonder, man. I haven't played sports since PE and flipping school. My man can't run. You can tell, man.
People can call it waffle all they want, but I've grown up in gyms. I've grown up around athletes. I'm friends with some of the best fighters, in the world. I've got a cousin that was a professional football player and is a professional coach right now, who I've spoken to about this stuff. And it's a case of, like, as fighters, if you go through some really hard fights when you're younger, real hard ones where you're hurt, knocked out, the likelihood of you going into your mid to late 30s is low. Some of the fighters that do last longer, that's why Mayweather was so good defensively. The man barely got hit, he barely got hurt. So he could maintain his punch resistance. He could maintain his physicality. You get someone like a Ricky Hatton, who was an amazing fighter, but he used to block punches with his face. He was always going to lose that ability earlier because there's only so many punches you can take. Footballers, there's only so many sprints you can do. There's only so many times you can pull a hamstring. There's only so many times you can do these things. If you don't believe it, probably because you're sitting on a couch. Listen, I want to thank everyone who's tuned into the show today. It means a great deal to us that you're all here. Obviously, a few new subjects came up throughout the course of the show, as ever. We're back later today with six-sided, 6 perspectives, 6 topics. Can't wait to do that again today. We've got some big questions coming on that later. So we're back at 5 p.m. This is going to redirect you to Sam's channel. A big Liverpool preview going on over there ahead of tonight's game. So get yourselves across. Make sure you're supporting him. George, let everyone know where they can find you, brother.
Yeah, man. Do Rag Diaries. Next show at 2 p.m. North Divide with Hooks. Catch me there. But if not, just subscribe to Do Rag Diaries. We live every day, putting in the work. And yeah, man, big up to everyone for the support.
Good to see it, bro. Good to see it. That'll be a great show today with 2 people who's loving their clubs right now, loving their team.
Us and second in the league, man.
Can't relate. Can't relate, brother. Can't relate. Until next time, people, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again very, very soon. Peace.